Exit Corners. Despite this game having its flaws and being on the bottom of this list, I don't think Exit Corners has done as bad as some other entries I've had on other Game of the Weeks. Exit Corners is a story about a bunch of kidnapped people being taken to a hotel. It is up to you to help the characters find their freedom by solving puzzles. As interactive stories go, I think the overall look and appearance of the game is pretty good. There are also 16 chapters, which makes for a pretty lengthy game and a lot more content to get into than your average Congregate game. My only issue is that there isn't enough interaction in the game to keep a player thoroughly interested. When you do interact, it involves either responding to questions or intricate puzzles which are entertaining to solve. Interaction is obviously part of being an interactive story, and I feel like Exit Corners cut corners when they thought about the player's involvement in the game. However, Exit Corners is a completely free game, and it's still worth a go if you're up for a mystery plot. Dark Hill Museum of Death. This game has a place in my heart because it showed me indie games on GameJolt can make thoroughly enjoyable puzzles. Don't get me wrong, Exit Corners did this also, but I find Dark Hill Museum of Death improves on this because it focuses entirely on puzzle solving and doesn't offer the player a needlessly complex story. Although the game can be beaten in about 20 minutes for the avid puzzle solver, it is still an interesting journey. The appearance of said museum may be a bit low key, but the area still offers facts and display cases to make you feel like you're actually at a museum. Despite no story, Dark Hill Museum of Death was just more engaging for me. However, if you try the game, don't expect it to last too long. Ground Floor Z. I wasn't sure what to make of Ground Floor Z when I came to the menu screen. I didn't even think about what the Z meant, but as soon as I played the game, I actually found it pretty fun. The game has colourful visuals which aren't too overdone, they feel amateurish, and for an arcade game, kept a retro feel throughout me playing it. There is no storyline, but then since this is an arcade game, I wouldn't expect there to be much focus on plot anyway. The gameplay features you trying to save as many civilians as you can from a horde of zombies invading a building. You can only travel up and down an elevator, and cannot exit the elevator shaft itself. Your quote-unquote health is a system whereby you cannot receive damage personally, but instead you must keep as many civilians alive as you can. This makes the game a decent challenge, as you'll find yourself trying to keep a track of everything going on. The only issue I had was the game's short playtime, but even so, fans of the arcade days will be able to appreciate this entry. King's Quest Chapter 1, A Night to Remember. Before I begin this entry, I'd like to note that I will only be commenting on Chapter 1 and not the full version of this game. It may seem stupid to only review one chapter of a game, however since the full version costs $29.99 and I happen to buy the Chapter 1 version for free, I'm also going to ignore any price tags on this game. King's Quest is a well-designed game with a look similar to one of the Telltale series. The plot is about an old man reminiscing over his days of youth to his granddaughter, whereby he intends to take a magical mirror from a dragon. The event where he takes the mirror is the part you will be playing. The puzzles themselves aren't too challenging, and the player area isn't too interactive. However, the gameplay is reminiscent of an old grim fairy tale, and I feel like not many adventure games can pull this off as good as King's Quest did. Furthermore, there does seem to be an element of decisions affecting the plot during cutscenes where you can make a choice. It's not the most engaging game, but King's Quest does feel like there's something to it that makes you want to come back for more. Dungeon Punks. I'll say now that if you want this RPG, it will cost $14.99 on PSN and Steam, but to be fair, I've rated the game quite highly despite this small issue. Dungeon Punks is a game where you pick to be an adventurer, go on quests, and defeat various enemies. There is a story whereby you are working for a captain of an airship, however it's one of those stories that feel like they're there to fill in a void. It sounds generic for an RPG game, but the game does excel in decent gameplay and a good leveling system. You can also play with up to 2 other players, therefore making Dungeon Punks a fun multiplayer game. The gameplay itself is similar to Street Fighter, but also allows you to use special moves and upgrade your characters with a money system and experience. Dungeon Punks is a great game to give a go, especially if you're looking for a good old hack and slash to play with a friend. Duelist. I'll admit this game does take a lot from Hearthstone, as you have a deck you can choose to modify, factions to decide to fight with, and mana points to utilise your moves with. Yet the game itself is engaging, and Duelist adds a level of strategy which you wouldn't find in Hearthstone by making the game more three-dimensional. The appearance of the game itself is very neat and at the same time vibrant. What's more, you don't need to install the game onto your computer and can play the game online if you go through Congregate. It may be small things, but I feel like Duelist has been able to expand on an already great game. Hence, Game of the Week is Duelist.